From deep within our hidden volcano laboratory, a podcast about gaming from the people who bring your games to life. These are your core elements.
Core Elements, episode 53, recorded on November 19th, 2013.
I am Wes Wilson.
I am Spencer Williams, and I almost forgot my last name. And with us is Dean Tate. He is the maker of Captain Bubblenaut. Say hello, Dean.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. We are excited. This is 2 weeks in a row. We're on a roll.
Yeah.
We can just keep going.
I don't know what to do with myself.
So, Dean, you have made a game called Captain Bubblenaut. Do you want to? How do you describe that to the people that you're interacting with?
Oh God, Owen and I, the guy that made it, I've talked about this at length about the fact that we have so much trouble explaining to people what this game is, which is kind of what happens, I guess, when you make something that centers around a unique mechanic. So I still haven't nailed how to explain it. If you played Tiny Wings on iOS, on iPhone, it's a little bit like Tiny Wings, but imagine a version of Tiny Wings where you control the ground instead of controlling the character. And it's a little bit more action-oriented than Tiny Wings, so
it's sort of about killing all of the humans, right?
Exactly. Like, you're this little Earthling named Captain Bubblenaut, and it's her job to go down to planet Earth and destroy all of the Earthlings. She's been asked to do this by her father. And so she's there bouncing around on the screen. She's a little bouncy ball, kind of like a gumball. And the terrain has all these nice rolling hills on it, and on those hills are spawning little Earthlings that have various types of defenses, and it's your job to like bounce around and smack into them. And you can swoop along the terrain in the same way that you do in Tiny Wings. So if you hit the terrain sort of at the right angle, then you'll swoop along it and you'll take out a whole bunch of Earthlings at once and kind of build up your combo meter. So it's a bit like Tiny Wings Pro, I guess, or like action Tiny Wings.
Have you? Do you describe it as a murder simulator? I mean, you're actually murdering the humans, or just kind of knocking them unconscious?
Well, you know, just like in Mario Brothers, right? Like when Mario gets hurt, he just kind of looks surprised and falls off the bottom of the screen, and we don't know what's happening down there on the bottom of the screen. We can't see. Is he dead? Maybe he's just passed out for a while. And it's the same here. Those Earthlings are just falling off the screen. So I'm not going to say whether they're falling to a bloody squishy death or not.
I'm pretty sure you just said that this entire game, from the perspective of the Earthlings, is a peyote-inspired hallucination. I'm pretty sure that's what you just said.
Sure, let's go with that. Well, actually, the original concept was that the entire thing was just a lie spun by Captain Bubblenaut to her father, because she's actually very peaceful and doesn't want to destroy, a distant planet. And so everything you're seeing on the screen is just a lie.
And you've actually come from big studios to do your own work. Where have you worked before?
Yeah, I was at Irrational Games for around 7 years. I kind of bounced around between all the different Irrational studios, primarily based in Australia, but also worked in Boston a whole bunch and Marin on the first two BioShock games. And then after that, after spending a bit of time on XCOM as well, the first-person shooter version, moved to Boston and worked at Harmonix, the rock band guys, Dance Central, for around 4 years. So I was a design lead on Dance Central 1, and spent a bunch of time working on a whole bunch of new IP for some years there, and that was super fun. And while I was working there, I was working on Captain Bubbles as well, just sort of off on the side, and then decided to strike out on my own and become indie full-time around 6 months ago.
Is that something that you say to other developers, like, you know what, I think I'm going to go indie? Because it sounds sort of like someone in a band saying, yeah, I'm going to take my solo career is going to take off. And
late at night when you're all drunk and crunching and sitting around and opening up.
Passing the peyote around.
Yeah. Late at E3 at a party, you whisper, I think I'm going to go indie.
I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to step off the edge. For me, it was actually a little bit like that. I went to GDC Europe one year to do a talk on Dance Central and met a whole bunch of people from the indie scene and just sort of spent most of my time hanging out with them. And after the trip, I just kind of had... It was like, from that point on, there was no way that I was going to be able to continue my career in AAA without at least going off and trying being indie, because I just spent the entire week around all these people who were just so passionate and excited about what they were doing and full of energy.
And then you have to go back to a publisher.
Right, exactly. They were just like making whatever the hell they wanted. Like I hung out with like Rami and Doug Wilson, the guy that did Johann Sebastian Joust, and a whole bunch of people from that scene, and just, you know, came back from the trip, was like, there's no way that I can, you know, experience my full career without at least trying out doing what they're doing, because they seem to be having so much fun.
I actually talked with Rami just today over email, and he might be joining us sometime soon. We weren't able to get him onto the show. Last time I talked to him was sometime around May. And
awesome.
So, but he's probably going to be coming on the show sometime soon.
That's great. I love that guy. He's dirty when it comes to playing Johann Sebastian Joust, though.
That is... is that an exclusive? I don't. Is that the lead?
You should ask him about the shoe strategy when he's on the show, which the two of us kind of pioneered, and then, you know, once we had to play against each other, he used it against me.
And you resent him for it?
No, it's fair. It's fair. You know, there are no rules in JS Joust. You can do whatever you want. The game is self-balancing in that way.
Well, we will talk more about that later, I guess. Or we'll talk about other things that you have done, but first...
Lab notes.
So this week, I decided to dig into something new. I saw that PC Magazine was offering a closed beta key to the new Ubisoft game, The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. And I just couldn't help but look at it. And I'm glad that I did, because it's essentially a mix between Diablo and Dungeon Keeper. And I always loved Dungeon Keeper so much and have been waiting for somebody to make another good one. But all the ones I hear about are kind of wishy-washy. But I spent a good 2 nights kind of digging into it and having a lot of fun, working my way through the campaign, digging into other people's castles, being surprised by some of the layouts that they did, and generally getting a pretty good feeling for it. I think this is going to be a winner, and Spencer disagrees with me.
I made it about 20 minutes before I gave up on it almost entirely.
Why?
Well, I wanted to talk about Tiny Death Star as well.
Okay,
this
okay
goes into it. Tiny Death Star is tiny towers, right? And you're building the Death Star, and you build a building or a room, and it takes X amount of time, and you can give them money to get tokens to make the room go faster.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. You know why? Because I'm not playing against anyone else.
Right.
It seems like they have the same mechanic going on in Mighty Quest.
Yeah.
Exactly. Except I am playing against other people.
Yeah.
So any desire I have to put time into the game is immediately attenuated by that fact.
And I can sort of understand it. It's just that I do believe that you can create something for people who have more money than time. And I think there can be a balance for both of those.
I think you can create something for people that have more money than time, but as soon as you put them in the same arena with people that do not, it is no longer interesting to me. It's not something I get angry about, because there are a lot of people that do get angry about this. There are people that go, "Oh, pay to win!" Rah! It just becomes uninteresting to me.
Right.
So is the problem sort of that the game is balanced in such a way that you're competing against other people's wallets, basically?
Well, and I don't even see that is... Okay, here's the things that I've seen that you... And you've played more, Wes, so you can... These are the things that I've seen that your real money can influence. Number one, you can pay for experience potions, so you can level up faster. 2, you can pay to make your buildings build faster, which in turn makes your castle bigger, which in turn makes you more powerful and makes your dungeon harder for other people to raid. So it doesn't feel as pay to win as, say, if I was playing Call of Duty and I could pay them $5 for a holographic site on my whatever gun. Yeah. It's not, that direct, but it is still the people that give them money have an advantage. And whether that advantage directly affects me or indirectly affects me, it just causes me to roll my eyes and move on immediately. So it may not even be a balance issue. It's just...
And that's just it. I do think that this is all about, like, do I hey, I don't, I want to play this game, but I don't have much time to play it. I can pay some money to speed this stuff up a little bit. But I don't think it changes the difficulty of you actually playing the game.
So if you paid... Right now they've got several, like, pre-purchase things up. And the biggest one is the $99 one, which gets you... What is the in-game currency called?
Some kind of gem. I don't know.
No, but it's something funny. It's like bling. That's it. It's bling. $99 gets you something like 1,600 bling, which is like $160 worth of bling. So yeah, it's a good deal if you're wanting to buy lots of bling. But if I am playing with you, you buy all that bling and use it to make your castle more powerful. Why would I play with you?
Well, the key here is that for when you look at someone's castle, it's based upon, like, you don't necessarily go into somebody else's castle unless you're evenly matched for it.
Can you tell ahead of time how evenly matched you are with somebody's castle?
Yes, you can see the level of that person, and you can see the like how much. Like you can look at how many people have been defeated by that castle. You can look at how like their prestige. Like, have they been getting lots of prestige or low prestige?
Except when I say you and me, I'm specifically talking about you and me. You are my friend.
Yes.
You spend money on the game.
Yes.
I do not.
Yes.
I cannot play with you anymore, really. I mean, you can come in and you can, pee all over my minions in my dungeon and destroy it with impunity because you have blinged out your character.
But I don't think it's necessarily that way. The way that I see the game is that, okay, let's say you don't have a job. And you can sit there set something. You can. I'm not saying anything. So you can log on and say, okay, I would like to upgrade these two things, right? And then 3 hours later, you can log on again and upgrade two more things. You get my drift? Whereas I'm at work, and what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just pay some money and go ahead and upgrade those two things and have two more things working so that they're ready by the time I get home.
Except that's not how it balances out. How it balances out, and we'll stop talking about this in a second. How it actually balances out is the people that spend bling on it just go ding, 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 ding. It's not this is a convenience thing. It's I can become more powerful. It is, in my mind, that's where it goes.
Yeah.
And, you could very well play that way, but there are other people that will not, and it immediately creates this tiered structure between the players that is in no way obvious or, apparent. And if it was, then it would, it's like Diablo 3. The people that spend money to get the best stuff versus the scrubs that toil. They toil through hell difficulty for hours on end to scrape together enough gold to just buy a purple sword. Do you see what I'm saying?
It is a weird thing. Like, even if it doesn't actually end up shaking out that way, the fact that real money is involved just creates this weird tension of, if I've spent money on the game, then I expect to be winning more often than the people I'm playing against who haven't. And if I haven't spent much money on the game, I'm like, I still expect this game to be well designed and balanced enough that I've got a fighting chance against the people that have spent money. I guess, and even if it doesn't actually end up shaking out that way for whatever reason, like, you can't help feeling that it should work that way.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I avoid playing games like this. If I play multiplayer games, I want to play something where people are evenly matched from the get-go, and it is purely about skill. I mean, I'll even avoid the last Battlefield, for example, kind of rubbed me up the wrong way. I don't really enjoy playing multiplayer games where I know that people who've just been playing longer than me not only have an advantage in that they've built up more skill over time,
but they also
in that their equipment is better.
Yeah.
Like, they can do things that I literally can't do just now.
Yeah.
But you know, just as a you know more direct comparison, rather than Tiny Death Star, which you know is only very very strangely, you know, the only thing they have in common is you can pay to make.
Yeah, but I'm in my head, I'm competing with you, and the fact that you can have more levels on your Death Star because I didn't. Pay
I'm never
money.
showing you my Death Star.
I don't. I can just feel it.
You feel a great disturbance?
I'll show you my Death Star if you show me yours.
Well, no. Let's take Path of Exile for example, because it is another action RPG, top-down shooting, stabbing, bleeding. I paid into it. I got in-game currency for it. What do I get for that? I get a shiny wand. I get something that says, hey, I supported the game. I don't get better stats. I don't get improved situation in the game. I just get something that everyone looks and said, oh, wow, look at that guy. He's a douchebag. He paid money for this. But it's not the same as I paid to make the game easier for myself.
Yeah.
And again, it's not something I'm mad about. It's just something that makes the game uninteresting.
I can understand that, and I think in situations where things are reducing time, that is a prime way to do micropayments. Time and customization, and those are the two things that this game seems to focus on. But regardless, back to the original comments, I had fun. I think it's going to do well. It's silly and fun, and it combines two of my favorite kind of game styles. I love like trying to set up my dungeon so that it's the most damaging and all that kind of stuff, and I recommend it.
I will say that I logged into Uplay, but Uplay did not load up as an external thing. So, you know, good on you, Ubisoft. Or Ubisoft, whatever.
I also played some Guild Wars 2. They have a, you know, after the Halloween stuff, they have a new Living World thing going on right now called the Nightmare Tower. And I went in and poked around with that. And it's kind of horrible because there's basically this tower, and all along it are tons and tons of rapidly respawning enemies. And there are these flowers that explode if you get close to them. So and there's lots of them. So the problem is like, let's say you get attacked by something and killed. Well, a lot of times what'll happen is you'll get knocked into the range of one of these exploding flowers, and they'll just keep exploding on you and killing you. Like, and if somebody comes to try to come and help you get up, they have to stop trying to help you and let the thing explode and then come. And getting through parts of it was totally pulling teeth and awesome all at the same time.
It sounds a lot like high school.
Yeah. So what about you, Mr. Spencer? What have you been playing beside the things we've already talked about?
I actually have not been. I still have not been playing much. You know, I'm living with my in-laws right now, and I have this awesome gaming laptop, but I don't have a comfortable place to use it, and I feel very unmoored. So the idea of sitting down and playing a long stretch of games is kind of weird for me right now. So I've been playing pretty much the same things I was playing last week, which Path of Exile, I'm still logging in every day and playing a little bit, and really enjoying it. And I am still playing Long Live the Queen. This particular week, I died by poisoning. I also died from an arrow wound, which was fired from the forest. I have come no closer to coronation. So that's it for my week, really.
Sweet. And how about you, Mr. Dean?
I've been playing a lot of Spelunky, as usual. I also finished Batman Origins.
Oh, wow.
And I've been playing the XCOM expansion. So take your pick on which one you'd like to talk about.
I want to talk about Spelunky because
so do I.
It's a game whose appeal escapes both Wes and I. So
oh, really?
I'm interested in hearing what everyone has to say why they like it.
Sure. So I've played it now off and on since the HD version came out on XBLA, right? And up until recently, I didn't really get the appeal either. You know, I'd kind of jump in and play a bit and kind of bounce off of it. You know, I'd die very quickly. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like the Dark Souls of platformers, but I'm not enjoying it as much as I enjoy that game. And was finding myself not really getting past the first set of levels that often. And then I don't think it was until a few friends that I follow on Twitter started posting their daily challenge videos and that the daily challenge feature was added to the game. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yes, and I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, it's great. So, the game is random. The levels are randomly generated each time you play, but they have the notion of this daily challenge, which is where every day you can play a version of the game where every other player is playing from the same random seed. So you're all getting the same set of levels, and then you're competing to top the leaderboards and progress further through the game than your friends, which has just taken off. The fact that now live streaming and sharing of recordings of playthroughs is such a huge thing. This game is just perfect for that. And it's because, and this is what really appeals to me about the game, is that the game is just chock full of secrets. It's something that doesn't really get done that often in games these days, especially large budget games, because there's always the argument that, well, we shouldn't be spending all of this time on content that most people aren't going to see. And the insane thing about Spelunky is that I would say a good half of the content built for this game is completely secret. Like, most players will never find it, never even be aware that it's a part of the game. But now that, sharing of recordings has become such a huge thing, you can just sit there. I was just watching before I got on the podcast today. I was sitting here watching a recording from Chris Remo, and he revealed a set of levels, I think it's called the Golden City, that I was not even aware existed inside the game. I was aware that there were like 3 or 4 other sets of secret levels. I didn't know there were 5 of them. Wow. And for a core playthrough of the game, you only encounter 4 level types. There's like the caves, the jungle, the ice caves, and then the temple, and then you're done. And there's at least like 5 or 6 sets of levels that are not on that core playthrough, which is just insane. Like, the guys that made this game spent all of that time building levels that most people are not going to see. But that just adds so much value to the game for me. The fact that you can, I've finished the game now. I've gone through the core path and beaten Olmec, the final boss. But there's this entire other game there that I've not yet even begun to play that's sitting there ready for me.
That's really interesting. I've never heard someone describe it that way. Every time I've asked, I've gotten some version of the answer that it's the skill of it makes it so appealing, and that's never really been very satisfying to me. But what It sounds like you are describing, sort of, to me, is like a side-scrolling version of Binding of Isaac or something like that.
Sure, or a little bit like I was saying to a friend today, that's a bit like Star Fox 64 in that although that game, like, it shows you that there are these multiple paths for the game with this very clear map. It's like, here's the easy path, and if you get better at the game and work out all the secrets, you can go on the medium or the hard path. Spelunky is like that, except that medium and hard path is completely hidden from you when you first start playing it. Huh. So you're not even aware that it exists until you kind of start to do that old school thing of, like, hearing from friends that they visited the worm level and, oh, I visited hell. Like, what's hell? I finished the game. I don't even know what you're talking about. Let me go look up a video. Oh my God. Like, how is that even a thing in the game? Oh my God, that's what you need to do to get there. Holy crap.
You are the first person that's making me really want to play this game.
Oh man, it's so fun. And then the other thing, right, is that although it's a platformer, which I think kind of immediately bores a lot of people, the sort of pace and rhythm of the game is completely different to any other platformer out there. The game is not about platformer skill and your skill at, like, jumping and landing on platforms and jumping on guys and all that. It's more about, like, sort of edging forward through the levels and assessing each unique sort of situation that you're being thrown into, and then planning about how to take it on. Like, okay, I'm going to throw a rock up there to hit that spider, and then I'm going to jump over there, and then I'm going to crawl up there and crawl through those spikes, and then I'm going to throw a bomb on that wall so that I can get to the next part to get that guy. Like, it's all about kind of creeping forward. It's not about, like, Super Meat Boy style, like, I can move my fingers really fast.
The problem with that whole concept, though, is then they throw the big ghost in. And it's like, I would like to sit here and plan this, but, oh, by the way, we're going to make it so that you take too long planning it. You're going to die. But that's the cool thing.
Like, you have to be really good at making your plans really quick and then executing on them really fast, which is really satisfying. And then if you get really good, like I've been watching in Chris's videos, the ghost shows up and you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing, but I'm going to deal with that ghost and, tag him along and make him follow me in such a way that I can keep playing for as long as I want, which is just insane.
Yeah.
I, as a designer, like, I am so jealous of. Is it Derek? Derek Yu was the designer on this, I think. I hope I'm getting his name right.
I should get him on the show.
You should, because
so we should tell him how we don't understand why his game is not popular.
Well, Derek, everyone loves this game. I think it's shit. I don't know why everyone likes it. Can you explain that, please?
Well, it's funny. I think it's one of those. You know how an artist. Like I think that a lot of the game designers are all over Spelunky way more than like the average gamer is.
Mm-hmm.
And
that might be true.
And I think it's because I think it appeals to the people who create games in certain ways.
Yes,
like
because
that comic that
so
tells
simple.
stories that are too dark for everyone except other comedians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That could be the truth. I mean, I just sit there and marvel at just how simple every element of the game is in a vacuum, but how elegantly they all kind of mesh and play together to create something that's just so deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just sit there most of the time with my fist shaking in the air, like, you made it look so easy to make a game like this. How did you do it?
Well, and that's the amazing thing, is that it's not necessarily a complex mechanism. It's just a particular pattern of things that is appealing to people, and it just hasn't been appealing to me. So,
yeah, we should totally
put some more time in it for sure.
Yeah.
Give it another couple of hours.
I tried.
Watch some videos of really high level play.
Do you know what would make it better?
What?
If it was pay to win.
That's the other thing I love about it. I bought my copy and I can just play it every day and not dump more money into it. Although I'd happily give Derek a few $100 more.
Wow, that's very generous of you. So
apparently your game has done quite well.
Yeah.
No, it is not.
So
it's no Spelunky.
So I want to ask about Arkham Origins. I played the first two, and by the end of the second one, I was bored. I was bored to tears.
Yeah.
I was like,
they wouldn't shut up.
Exactly.
Let me fly across the city and stop bugging me.
Yeah, and the other thing is I never bought into the fantasy of Arkham City. Like it like the idea that they sectioned off a part of the city that the inmates then controlled made no sense to me. They should have just dropped a nuke on it. It just was idiotic. So, like, have they redeemed anything with Origins?
So have either of you played Origins?
No.
So, no, they haven't, unfortunately. Arkham Asylum I love Metroidvania games, and many games that kind of pertain to be that say that they are Metroidvania often are not really, or kind of miss a lot of the lessons that sort of Super Metroid taught. Asylum really got it. Like, that was a perfect Metroidvania game in a lot of ways. City didn't get it and dropped off a whole bunch of that awesomeness in order to go with the hot new thing, which is open world gaming, even though it was quite a small open world. And then the issue with Origins is that, well, it's pretty much dropped all of the Metroidvania stuff. There's just, even though all of the player tools are there for it to still be in place, none of that structure is there anymore. And unfortunately, it just feels like, I tweeted about it the other day, it just feels like a really talented group of people, a really talented developer was not given enough time to make something amazing. So a lot of the elements are there. The execution is just kind of left wanting. And the game just feels kind of rushed. There are a lot of decisions in there that I can see were not made because the team thought it was the best decision, but were just left with, what they had made and didn't have time to iterate and had to put the thing out there because now you got to have a Batman game out every year.
Yeah. Well, I just felt I ended up feeling after City that it was like somebody said, "Wouldn't it be cool if this happened?" And somebody said, "Okay," and somebody said, "Wouldn't it be cool if this happened?" "Okay," and nobody like said no.
Yeah. No one said, "Wait. I don't know about that."
No,
wouldn't it be cool if it was an origin story? Then we could get the Joker back, and wouldn't that be awesome? Because everyone loves the Joker.
Yeah.
Like, I guess so, but
and I totally agree with you. Like Arkham Asylum, I played through twice. Mm-hmm. I'm also a big fan of the Metroidvania And even though that's the most ridiculous genre title of all time.
I know.
And I played through it twice, and it didn't even have an upside down castle, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Turn your TV upside down.
and then I
Second place.
I didn't even 100%. I know that's so sad. I didn't 100% Arkham City.
Yeah.
And then for this one, I'm just like, it'll be $5 eventually.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm looking at it too.
I 35%ed it. I hit the halfway point and then just, speed ran it basically.
I think the important question though is, how is Roger Craig Smith as Batman?
Oh, I think the more important question is, how is Troy Baker as the Joker, right?
No, Roger Craig
No,
Smith.
we like Roger Craig Smith has been on the show.
Yeah,
so.
so we like him better.
Oh, okay. He was good. He can do gravelly voice.
It's funny because I've watched some trailers of the game just to I want to hear what he sounds like as Batman. And so far, all I've watched 3 trailers, and all I've heard him go is ugh. And I'm like, that tells me nothing.
On a similar story this week, I watched a show where it was from a con, and they had a bunch of voice artists. They had Tara Strong and the guy who does Bender, the guy who does Wacko and Jacko, and they read the Star Wars script in character voices. And if anybody gets a chance, go check that out. Okay,
Right, Bender is in Batman, isn't he?
He's in everything.
He is in everything. Yeah, he's in Gears of War as well. And it's one of those guys, you go to Wikipedia and you have to tap through multiple pages to see his long list of stuff.
Eureka! Ow!
So the first thing I have in the news is the PS4 dropped. It sold 1 million units in the first 24 hours, and the response has been good. One of the first things I did was I found an article, 10 reasons why the PS4 is better than the Xbox One, and I read through them, and I said, okay, those are pretty good reasons. I can buy that. Not necessarily all fanboy stuff either. And then Tycho actually commented on this from Penny Arcade, and he said, the PlayStation 4 is an act of such
Yeah, right there.
is an act of such contrition, such respect, that I hardly know what to say about it.
Aw.
I mean, that's a pretty serious thing, and from all accounts, it appears that Sony has finally come out with a system launch that people are reasonably happy with.
As opposed to the PS2, which was the best console launch of history. What are you saying?
Was it really?
Oh yeah, the PS2 was fantastic.
Oh.
The PS3 was not.
In terms of what? In terms of launch lineup? Games?
Yeah. It had that one game.
See, all I remember about the 2 and the 3 is people were lamenting that it was not the PlayStation. It didn't come out like the PlayStation 1 did. And especially 3. I mean, 3 got dogged for most of its history, and I love the machine. I own it and not an Xbox, and have no problems with that and love it. And so hearing these gamer people saying, "Hey, look, this is a big deal," I don't know. It's kind of making me happy. Are you much of a console player, Dean?
I am, yeah. I sensed a lot of humility this time around, kind of Sony was crawling back over to us and saying we're sorry that we had such a huge ego with PlayStation 3. Please come back and like us. I remember when the PS3 came out, it just felt like there was a lot of you're gonna pay $600 or whatever it was. Suck it.
Yeah, it was very much
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? You want to play games?
You want Blu-ray? You want Blu-ray?
We're fucking Sony here. Come on.
No, but I play a lot of console games. Although this time around, I'm not getting I guess I don't usually buy consoles immediately at launch. I have with the last couple of Nintendo consoles, but not with anything Microsoft or Sony.
Yeah.
My wife kind of works for Microsoft, so she's getting an Xbox One, and that's, I think, really the only thing that just made the decision for us on which console we're going to have first. Yeah. I might get a PS4 in the future, but right now there are just the lineup of games between the two is just so similar that I don't need to own both of them. In fact, I had a PS4 on order and then went and looked at the launch lineup and thought, okay, I'm not going to have anything that I need to play specifically on PS4 for at least the first few months. I want to play The Witness from Jonathan Blow, but I think that's still a ways off.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the way I kind of looked at it. And Brent makes this comment a lot that, okay, you buy a launch title and you buy a system, that single game cost you $500.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
And I'm not particularly interested in the launch titles. I want one, but it's just because I want a better PS3, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the idea of having a nicer machine with more capability, but I'm not ravenous to get it. I might wait for the second version of it to come out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
See,
Or some kind of bundle.
Yeah.
I'm in the I'm not interested probably for the next several years category. And that's like a complete 180 from me. I have, I have sat outside the Best Buy in Huntsville, I think for the last 3 console launches, generation launches. Like I actually had a camp out in front of Best Buy mattress that I would carry around with me.
And just carry around constantly in case a console just randomly
it also
launched while you're out in town.
It also fit in the back of my truck under the camper shell, so it was a great place to make out. But
with your new console, which
with my
you
new
put in the back
yes. Oh, Sega Dreamcast. No, but no, I don't. It doesn't feel necessary to me at this point. And maybe that's because I have a computer that has 2 NVIDIA Titans in it.
Mm-hmm. And Steam boxes on the way.
And
right?
Steam boxes on the way.
And a Steam backlog of about 800 games, right?
Yeah.
And we have someone that's been with the DWP community for a long time, Random Inuyasha. She has, in the last month, bought an Xbox 360 and a PS3 for the first time, along with like 30 games, and she spent maybe $200. And I look at that and I'm like, why don't I just wait 6 or 7 years and do the same thing?
Man, I wish I had the self-control to do that. Can you imagine the feeling of just unwrapping 30 amazing games that have come out over the last 7 years that you haven't played?
I've been doing something really similar with the PS3 because I ignored it for the longest time, and I've just been like, hey, there's all these weird Japanese RPGs that I skipped. I'll just get them. So I got like 6 or 7 of them, and I'll never play them because I don't have time. But I have them, and I got them cheap. So hey.
Well, then I actually had this discussion kind of in a similar vein. Somebody was like, I can't talk to you tonight. I've got to go watch this show. I'm like, you watch shows in real time? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm waiting for, I said, I'm waiting for the whole season to come out on Netflix. And she's like, well, I can't do that. My friends and I want to talk about it. It's kind of a community thing. And I'm like, that's a getting old thing, isn't it? It's like you get to a point where you're just like, I'm not around the water cooler or in social enough environments to get that resonance going over new products.
My 82-year-old father-in-law spoiled season 3 of Downton Abbey for my wife and I just the other night. So, it's not a generational thing.
Well, he's getting old, though. I mean, you have to watch shows as they come out when you're at that age.
He did it on purpose. He knew what he was doing.
Okay, so let's move on. In the other hardware announcement zone, Valve is revealing a virtual reality prototype with big plans for Steam support. Now, this is also the company that they worked tightly with the Oculus Rift, and we're happy to support it. And like TF2 and Half-Life 2 both support the Oculus Rift. And aren't they working with the AR?
No, they were.
Right.
Like the people that are making the
what is it called? Cast AR?
The Cast AR.
Yeah, those guys used to work at Valve.
They developed a prototype at Valve.
Yeah.
And then they were either let go or they were just it very confusing how it ended up, but they left Valve and they took the technology with them, which is, how many companies would actually let their someone like go do that, which is cool. But now I'm confused. Like I don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah.
So where is this news coming from? This is the first that I've heard of it myself.
I got it off The Verge.
Okay.
It's it's some legitimate stuff. I didn't get it off the crazy. Anyway, I was about to diss a website and I changed my mind.
So it must be very different tech to. It's not augmented reality; it's virtual reality.
Yes.
So it's closer to like the Oculus Rift.
Yes, and I mean I'm kind of excited about it, but here's my question. Has Valve just gone off the deep end? They're deciding to pick up 4 or 5 new technologies and dive in. Do you think they're just kind of getting manic about this?
No.
I think they have a lot of money and they might as well try out a whole bunch of new things with it.
I think it's a
And
combination.
more money than God at this point.
I think it is a combination of that, the fact that they feel that Microsoft has increasingly become a hostile environment for them for them to operate.
Yeah.
I think it's also them seeing mobile gaming as a competitor. I think it's them seeing as consoles a competitor, and I think it's them trying to innovate their way into the front. And, I don't think it's strictly, hey, we got money, let's do VR. I think it's they are trying to get in front of what's going on in a way that the more conservative big guys can't do.
Yeah.
What did Microsoft do? Last generation, they made a camera that tried to be a Wii.
Yeah.
So they're clearly trying to get in front in a way that no one else can do, and I'm just curious as to whether or not it's going to go anywhere, because who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, and the last piece of news I have here is the Galactic Starfighter expansion is bringing starship combat to Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Finally. So, and my question about this is, this game is pretty late in its life cycle. It had its peak. It was really fast. It died really quick. They merged all the servers, and now, 2 years later, they're pulling out the thing that probably could have sucked everybody in.
Is this the BioWare one?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't even aware that it was still online. I'll say.
Well, and I just think they might have missed the window on this, and it's baffling to me because they have this super powerful IP, and then they're waiting till they're already on the losing end of things to do anything cool with it.
So are they doing full on kind of old school X-Wing versus TIE Fighter? You need a joystick, space dogfighting? Or is it something much more simple than that?
I think it's probably going to be a little bit more simple. It is dogfighting. It looks like it's done mostly above cities. So there's terrain and things like that you can zip through and things like that.
Okay. There will be more like Rogue Squadron or something.
But it's it appears.
Is it still a rail shooter?
No,
Because that's what the starfighting was originally.
It's PvP, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it a PvP rail shooter? Because that sounds weird, dude.
I don't know.
Yeah, how would that work?
I don't know.
Up.
can't be
There
it.
it is.
Now-
There's. Okay, I'm going to click. Oh, no, never mind.
But now I did not notice any capital ships. So it's not going to be fleet combat. It doesn't look like. It looks like it is going to be customized fighter combat in kind of a airborne PvP arena.
Okay. Do you know what I have? The X-Wing collectible minis game that I don't have to install on my computer. No, and I'm not saying that to. It's just you're right. It's past.
Yeah.
The time for the Old Republic, I think in most people's minds is over.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that still plays it. I know that, in the DWP, there were several of us that were just super excited about it. And then we were super into it for a week.
Yeah.
And then it was over. And we were like, wow, this is a lot of talking.
Yeah.
And this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think it's been more than 2 years. I don't remember. It's been out for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like EQ2, sort of. We're just going to keep adding stuff to it, and no one's really going to care except the people that already play it.
And that's just it. This seems like a pretty significant thing to add, but I'm not sure it's going to pull anyone in at all. Maybe a few people who were into the game for a while and stepped aside, but I don't think it's going to bring anybody new in.
I guess you would hope that the financials make sense, even if it's not bringing in new people, right?
Yeah.
If we continue to support our current subscribers, it pays for the development of the expansion.
Yeah.
And a bit more.
Yeah.
I loved X-Wing and TIE Fighter so much. I mean, when I was a young teenager, that was basically what my computer was for, those games, especially TIE Fighter. I don't have shields.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if I get hit twice, I'm dead. No, but so I mean, this is the kind of thing that would make me install it and look at it and go, ooh, okay, but it's not going to make me give them any money.
Yeah.
So
Inspiration.
Now you put this first question in.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So you want to start off the?
Yeah, sure. So, Dean, my first question was why iOS, and it's something that I'm more and more curious about as I see indie developers who go to iOS first. And I was just curious what made that decision for you, and
Sure.
And so.
So a little bit of backstory, right, is that, as I said earlier, it started out as just a side project while I was at Harmonix, and it really was a side project. You know, there was no intention there for me to leave the company towards the end of the project, as I ended up doing. It wasn't some kind of like Trojan horse, you know, this is going to be my entry into an indie career. The friend of mine that I worked on it with, Owen McIndoe, who was the coder, I was the artist, and we both shared design. We both just wanted to work on something outside of work, and for him outside of studies. And we fully intended on working on something for a couple of months and then releasing it and then moving on to something else. That was 3 years ago. The side projects can end up taking a bit longer than you expect, especially when you're making something that's kind of unique. And so for us, the decision to make something for iOS was not a business-driven decision. It was more a decision about, two things, I guess. One was scope. We knew that if we worked on something for iOS, that would help us control the scope, because games made for iOS tend to be quite tiny in scope, quite small. And the other, and I think bigger thing, is just that as a designer, I really enjoy working on games that need to employ an input device that I haven't worked with before. You know, it was really fun working. I worked on PC games at first, and then moving from that to console was really interesting, and having to work. I did quite a bit of work on the interface and sort of controller layout for BioShock. And that was really fun. And then Dance Central, of course, working with Connect, that was what was really interesting about working on that project. And then, so for my side project, I was like, okay, so what's something else that I can, what's another input device that I haven't worked on? And that was, you know, iPhone touchscreen. I haven't built a game for that. I haven't built a game before where you're more or less restricted to building a one-button game or a one-input game. And so that's what drove the decision to work on an iPhone game.
But you know, why just, and maybe this is just, you know, resources issue, but why iOS as opposed to Android? Or
Oh, definitely just resources at this point. So also, because it took us 3 years, the market and the sort of landscape of mobile has changed drastically since the time when we started working on the game. You know, now it's all about free to play, and the number of Android users out there versus iOS users is much, much higher. You know, we commonly get asked when we're going to release it on Android. And so, yeah, it's mostly just a resource thing at this point.
Was it also because you have an iPhone in your pocket?
Yeah, definitely part of it. Yeah, you know, I'm an iPhone user, and the ability to like meet someone new for the first time and then say, "Oh, I'm working on this game," and then reach out into your pocket and pull it out and give it to them is just amazing. That's really cool. I'd never had the ability to do that before. But also, so we built the game using Cocos 2D, which is a free set of, you know, tools and code and stuff, an engine. And I think these days it might support Android, but the version that we used definitely does not. We're using like one of the first versions of it, and it's 3 years old. So porting to Android is not easy. And then even more so, porting to, I don't know how many different screen sizes there are for Android is really tough with this game, because we just sort of the game is designed, and all of the assets are designed to fit the screen width of the screen that you're playing on. So supporting multiple screen sizes is actually like a huge undertaking for this game. You can't just like zoom the camera in or out to.
Well, that answers my second question, which was not why no iPad HD version.
We are working on an iPad version, and it'll be done really soon. And now that we've got that up and running, I actually really wish that we'd just put the extra time in and released it concurrently. Although I guess it's going to give us another push of, getting the word out when we do release that version.
Are you
the cool thing about that version
again?
is that we're actually taking advantage of the larger screen. So you've got like the terrain at the bottom of the screen is twice as long. You've got twice as much sky to fly through. The game just feels much more roomy. And going back now and playing the iPhone version, it's amazing how the game feels so much. It feels right for iPad, which is great. I'm really happy with that.
Because my eyes are going. So trying to play on Spencer's iPhone, it was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, he only has an Android phone because he's a I don't know, a moron.
Old man. He's got one of those like 9-inch iPhone Android phones.
He's like 60.
Shut up.
No, but am I going to have to give you another $2 to play it on my iPad?
No, we will release that as a free update for sure.
Great.
And I think that we'll do a sale around that time too, most probably, to help out with that. So yeah, we're just going to make it universal.
So let's move on to Wes's question.
So you were programming were you doing AI programming for BioShock?
No, so I was a designer. I never got my hands dirty with actual code, but as a designer, you do dig into variables and that sort of thing. So on BioShock 1, like, it's kind of crazy. Things have changed a lot since we worked on that game. I think that, that project was around four years long, with quite a lengthy pre-production with a small team. And then for production, I think we ramped up to the full team, including like QA, was maybe 80 to 100 people.
Wow.
And so, at that, when your team is that small by today's standards, back then it was kind of huge. Everybody has to wear a lot of hats. So,
literally?
So that meant that I was doing level design work. I was building and constructing levels and scripting them and doing, some narrative editing stuff. And then I was also responsible for AI design and tuning the ecology, tuning combat with AIs, and a bunch of UI stuff too.
Well, so you wore a lot of hats and you did a lot of stuff, and then you moved into Captain Bubblenaut, where there is, basically just one functional decision that needs to be made at any point in time. You randomize the people, and then all you've got to do is have the terrain. Did you ever start getting wonder where you're going to go more complex? You're like, oh, well, maybe the people will do this, and maybe this. Did you ever start heading in that direction?
I throw my head back and laugh at all of those comments because, my God, none of it was simple. I mean, the game took 3 years, but that doesn't mean that there weren't periods where we were working on it, quite a lot. I mean, one of the reasons that I'm laughing is just, I'm not like teasing you.
Yeah.
It's more that the game was so much more complex at times, and the mechanics at points just kind of got out of control, to the point where there were just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of concepts that the player had to be learning, in terms of the different enemy behaviors and the mechanics for how you interact with them.
Yeah.
So I can give two really quick examples. So the fact that the game is called Captain Bubblenaut is not an accident. Originally the game was called Captain Bubbles, but we had to change it because somebody else already had that name. But also the game was about bubbles at a lot of points in development. So, at one point you would hit enemies, and then a little bit like Bubble, they wouldn't die. Sorry, they wouldn't fall off the screen.
Oh, no, it's too late now, my friend.
You know the truth.
Yeah, they're dead down there. It's too late for you to release the DLC.
Well, in the future, we'll maybe bring this mechanic back, and then we'll show that none of the characters died. They all just got encased in bubbles. So yeah, originally you would hit an enemy, and then they get encased in a bubble, and then you'd have to take your finger off of the terrain and pop the bubbles in order to defeat the enemies.
Yeah.
So that's one mechanic that we tried out. We had this other mechanic where you'd bounce off the top of the screen, and we kind of had this like Arkanoid thing going on where there were tiles up there that you could hit for bonus points and power-ups and things. We had all sorts of different control schemes. We had all different sorts of ways of progressing through the game, a whole bunch of different health models, scoring models.
Can I interrupt you for just a sec?
Sure, yeah.
Didn't you say you picked an iOS game to limit the scope of the project?
I know. I did
this
say that.
This seems to contradict your earlier statement.
And then, like all designers, I went a little bit crazy with power.
Well, and I was actually going to ask that. Like, was your like how much of the original design is in the current?
Oh my god, like 10%.
Okay.
10% of the things that we implemented and tried out actually shipped in the game.
Yeah.
We tried out all of these different mechanics, and a lot of them could come back in some form if we decided to, because Owen and I still work together on stuff for fun, and so we might still mess around with the core mechanic and make something new out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of stuff there that was promising. It was just that because we built a game that's kind of a score attack, you drop the player in, they have to immediately understand how the game works, even though they've never seen it before. Everything has to be simple enough for them to go like, oh, okay, I get it. And then play and have fun. Because of that, we were really constrained. We had to keep it simple. If we were to do something else with these mechanics and had more time, I would love to do something where the game kind of has more of a progression structure or metagame where you're like working through levels and learning concepts one by one.
Right.
And that way, you can kind of ease the player into it
and work
do a lot more.
Work some in-app transactions in there.
Yes. Charge $10 per level, and then $10 to resurrect your character, and $10 to work out whether the enemies die when they fall off the screen or not.
So I wanted to ask about the very first level. And for people that have never played the game before, and I'm not sure we've stated it clearly, this is a game in which you are a little tiny sphere, and you are moving the ground instead of the sphere, and you're trying to get the right bank shots for the sphere. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, or like roll along the ground instead of bouncing off of it by landing on it the right way.
So the very first level, you can position the ground in such a way that you can then let go of your phone. And just for the how long is the first level? Like 10 seconds?
It's like 15 seconds.
So for that 15 seconds, you're just watching it and going, oh. And I was curious, how many iterations did you go through before you decided to?
Oh, for the first level? Oh my God.
You can just say 7 and I'll be happy. Oh, 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's say 10 because that one level that exists in the game is the 10% of the levels that I tried out.
Oh, wow.
For that first level. Yeah, because you're right. Like you basically can't not swoop on that level, which forces you to learn that swooping is a thing.
That's not true. Then I watched Wes fail.
I mean, you can if you... Hopefully on the second playthrough you're going to get it. But, I mean, the game won't continue until you do it at least once. Yeah. So you'll do it once, and then it'll probably happen accidentally a bunch of times, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. I can see what's happening here. That
did set up a bit of a false expectation for me.
Okay.
I got to the second level, and I was like, I can't put it in a place where I no longer have to touch it. That was false advertising.
What? I have to interact with this game? I can't. What if I just put some money in it? Then can I not interact with it?
$10 to not play this game.
So, talking about money, though, like I've read a lot of articles recently talking about how the gold rush for iOS and mobile game markets, like basically the price point is kind of low, and unless you win big, you don't win at all. How do you feel about mobile game pricing and where that put you as an indie game developer?
Sure. Well, I will say that, again, because it was a side project and I fully intend to work on something new at this point, and never kind of had the expectation that Bubblenaut would be, the thing that would fund me for the next 2 years to make the next thing. The fact that I didn't see it that way is very lucky, because there's no way in hell that thing is funding me for the next 2 years, let alone for my coffee tomorrow.
It's funny. I feel the same way about this podcast
as well. Sorry.
I said I feel the same way about this podcast.
Yeah, you know what it's like. I think no matter what the theory is, or what the sort of forecast is for how the sort of mobile landscape is from now on, there's always going to be outliers. Like, I don't want to kind of say, like, premium indie games are dead. You may as well not try, because all of the free-to-play guys who are paying for user acquisition with millions of dollars have got you beat no matter what. Because there will be that, that person out there, or that small team that makes the amazing killer app that just breaks through all of that crap and finds a massive audience and gives those people huge success. It can still happen, but I think in general, right now in mobile, if you are just the 1 or 2 person team, like, it is a massive, massive gamble, especially if you're putting, a lot of time and effort into your game and are funding it yourself. You should not, you should not be banking on a huge return. Yeah. Like, I feel comfortable talking about Bubblenaut numbers. Right now, it's not super high. I think we're up around maybe 3,000 sales or so full. And that's with first week featuring as one of the best new games. So we didn't get, editor's choice or anything like that. And I'll also say that, there are a lot of articles out there, and especially in the last few weeks, from lots of other indies, people like, what's his name, Bruce, Antichamber dude,
yeah,
and the like, talking about how marketing is just so important. Because I was working at Harmonix while I was working on this game, I didn't really have time to build up a whole bunch of, support and hype for the game, and also felt kind of uncomfortable, like, spending time outside of work talking a lot about this thing that I'm working on the side while I'm still employed at Harmonix, so I didn't really do it that much. So when the game came out, it didn't have a whole bunch of hype behind it, so that definitely had an impact. But yeah, like, it does feel like, unless you want to go free to play or freemium, which is where, you release the game and it's free and there's some kind of really, not so huge paywall shortly into the game that forces you to pay something. If you're not doing that and you're just doing premium paid, like, your chances of doing super well are pretty slim. There aren't that many stories out there of people doing really well doing it that way these days.
That reminds me, we should talk more about Spelunky.
Yeah. I have no idea how that game is actually doing. I don't know if there are sales figures out there or what, but it's been out for a while now and people are still talking about it and playing it.
Yeah.
And plus, I haven't heard anything from the creators the last few years. So you've got to guess that, I don't know, he's either working on something that's taking a long time, but he's got the money to do it, or he's just taking a huge break.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, talking about indie developers, and this will be my last question, then we'll move on to we got some emails this week. We've talked to a lot of indie game developers lately who have come from large studios, and I feel like the culture used to be that you started off making your little indie game to get in with the big studios, and now it seems like everybody we talk to that's doing indie gaming used to be with big studios, and they're doing it the other way around.
Yeah. It's kind of come full circle, right?
I mean, are you seeing that as well? Like, what do you think this is portending?
Yeah. I'm definitely seeing that as well. I'm seeing that, and actually, like, my story is a full circle story. I started out as basically an indie, doing mods and releasing stuff for free, and doing a little bit of, I don't want to say contract work, but it was like just worldwide team of modders coming together to make something commercial. That was my first project, and now I'm back to doing something that feels very similar. I think at first, maybe for a lot of people leaving AAA, it was kind of a bit of a gold rush. We're seeing all of these stories of people making their first project and then they're millionaires. You know, there are lots of like, you know, Annie Chambers and Fezzes and Minecrafts out there. Well, actually, no, there aren't that many of them, but they're out there.
But it feels
so
like
it feels like it. So people felt like, well, if I can leave my day job where I'm just getting my salary, or maybe getting a bonus if I'm lucky, but probably not. I'm probably just getting laid off at the end of each project. So I'm going to leave and do the indie thing and see how that goes, and you know, take that gamble. These days, I think it's starting to feel like it is more of a gamble. You know, that you are much less likely to strike gold, because it is, you know, the scene is becoming quite saturated. There are a lot of people out there doing it. And yet people are still leaving their jobs and going indie. And I think that for a lot of people, and as it is for me, it's more about, you know, well, I've only got one career and I've probably only got one chance, maybe two, to strike out on my own and do something on my own. And I'll ideally really enjoy that much more so than I would if I just stayed in my AAA job. So I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't lead to huge success, I'll probably have fun. You know, I know quite a few people in AAA who left their jobs for a year or two, made something, had a lot of fun making it, didn't do well, and they went back to their jobs afterwards, but none of them regret the time that they spent, you know, working for themselves or working with a small group.
Yeah. Well, we do have a couple letters, and then we'll wind down for the day. First off, we got one from James Borg. He says, I have a quick question about what do you think the effects of a system like Metacritic have done to games? Spencer,
are we still talking about that?
I'm sure you have a big opinion on this.
Do I?
I don't know. Do you?
It seems like I mean, no offense to the email, but it seems like a question from like 2007.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point we're so deep up Metacritic's ass that I mean, it's a moot question at this point. It is a fact of life. I think, you know, the more pressing questions is how Metacritic uses its sort of overarching, persistent sort of force on especially the journalistic side of things, less so on the developer side of things, because I think it affects journalists almost more than it affects the game developers at this point.
That's an interesting kind of take on that.
In what way? Like, how do you think it's influencing them?
Well, I mean, especially, you know, you've seen really big outlets like Kotaku, for example, abandon scores essentially because of Metacritic. You have seen other reviewers that are in, Adam Sessler had a big rant about them taking his score which was they work on a 4-star system on,
I can't remember,
a 4 or 5-star, but they took his 3-star rating and turned it into a 66. And he was trying to explain to them a 3-star rating is not the same as a 66. And they were saying, no, but here's why it is. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I'm the one that gave it the rating. It's not the same. And they were like, no, but it is. And at the same time, I have not heard many stories out of, and maybe it's because they're so widespread that that it's just not newsworthy anymore. But I haven't heard the stories of, what is the Fallout New Vegas not hitting its Metacritic rating, and so
didn't they come really, really close?
They came really, really close.
Off or something.
Yeah, they were like 1 point off of the Metacritic rating. They needed to get a huge bonus that would have lifted the company out of whatever dire straits that there always seem to be in. But I haven't heard those stories lately. And meanwhile, that oppressive effect on the journalistic community seems to continue. Yeah. So maybe that's just my flawed perception, but that's what it looks like to me at this point.
Maybe it's becoming less of a practice for companies to put that much importance on Metacritic as far as, you know, bonuses and things go because of the uproar.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Well, I also think that there's I think that the awareness that the systems are being gamed is much higher than it was earlier too. I mean, everybody knows that a good chunk of those Amazon reviews are going to be people that were paid to write them, even though that's against the law. A lot of people, I'm sure that happens with, you know, Metacritic as well.
God, I would love to be a professional troll. How awesome would it be to get paid by Activision to go onto the Battlefield 4 like thing on Amazon and say, Battlefield 4? More like Battlefield Snore. Cha-ching, $50 for me. How awesome would that be?
So anyway,
I don't know. I would hope not that awesome.
No, I would hope not
miserable existence.
So
not many people want to do it.
we did get one other email. This was from Nasty Man Nilsson. He says, I'm a huge fan of Core Elements podcast. I think it deserves a lot more attention than it currently gets. We agree. As in constructive feedback on what you could do better. Spencer needs to say the words area, super, and duper.
Super and duper, is that a thing of mine?
I don't know.
I know area is.
Is it?
Yeah, it's my favorite dirty, not dirty word.
Yeah.
Aerator?
Area.
Area.
Area. Yeah, but
As in a chunk of space? Area?
Yeah, or as in your area.
Oh.
Hey, watch it. You're getting a little close to my area. hey, baby. I like the look of your area. You see how it's just endlessly amusing. But super and duper, I don't remember me having a thing.
Well, you evidently need to say more of them.
Super duper area. There we go.
Dean,
super duper area.
We've gone a little bit over. Dean, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was a real pleasure, and I look forward to hearing about more great things from you.
Great. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
No problem. We're going to get this out hopefully this week, and if everything goes correctly. Although I've been having problems getting stuff up. Wait, that sounded bad.
You are like 67.
I know. So, but we're gonna get this episode up. So I've created a Core Elements Show channel. So if you want to watch the episodes, you can go to youtube.com/Core Elements Show. And check out the video. We record these weekly and we live stream them. If you want to find out when we are doing that, follow us on Twitter, Core Elements Pod, or you can follow us on Facebook. I try to post on both of those whenever doing stuff. So, Dean, take care. And
I will.
Pleasure to talk to you, Dean.
And we'll
you too. It was really fun.
Well, good. And we'll call it a night.
You've been listening to Core Elements, exploring gaming one element at a time. A listener-supported podcast. See the show notes or get more information at coreelementshow.com or leave us a voicemail at 256-763-0455.